Hello, 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 and thank you once again for tuning into my weekly podcast called Outside the Box, where I aim to help people see that God is bigger than the boxes that we usually put Him in. And my name is Stephanie K, also known as Sage the Coach. I am a certified life and relationship coach, a Christian certified life and relationship coach. I'm also a Christian author, a Bible teacher, a podcast host, as you see. I'm a mother, I'm a business owner. Like, I have a lot of stuff going on, which makes for a very interesting life. So that's good. um, so, um, and my show usually comes on Fridays at 12:30 p.m. And make sure you follow me on social media. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which is now called X, I think, because I went on there the other day and I saw a big X. I think my daughter said that um, the Musk guy changed the name of it or something like that. I don't really don't keep track of that type of stuff. But anyway, so that is where you can find me on social media. Please make sure you follow me and like or share my content, especially with those people you think it could really, really help. So um, so today, I want to talk about what does it mean to live for God. Um, the reason why I want to talk about this is because I see a lot of people who don't understand what that is. Even Christian people don't really understand what it means to live for God. And so I just kind of wanted to dive in that a little bit. I talked a little bit about my last on my last post. Um, I talked about who is God and how people kind of make up these ideas in their mind about who they think God is instead of actually getting to know God for themselves. Because He does have His own personality, His own desires, His own likes, His own dislikes. And it's really, and I used the example last week by saying that do you like it when somebody just assumes who you are instead of trying to get to know you for themselves, for good or for bad? So if they assume bad about you and they go with that, then they act a certain way towards you. And if they assume like you're better than what you are, that can create problems too. And so it's much better to get to know people for who they are. Try to accept them for who they are. I understand that some things are unacceptable because they are, but the main point is that we like for people to get to know us. There's a certain level of a genuineness in that. You connect with it more when people take the time to get to understand you, deal with you even in their confusion or whatever it is that they're going through when it comes to you. So I mean, because like sometimes when I get into it with people, it's really discouraging to me when it just seems like nobody wants to endure anything with you, because I'm not perfect. Other people are not perfect. And so if every little bump in the road is kind of like, well, I don't want to deal with you anymore, it just really means that you weren't really interested in me in the first place, because none of us are perfect. I deal with stuff when it comes to you, and I like to see people being willing to deal with stuff when it comes to me as well, because I'm not perfect either. I don't mistreat people, though. I would say that I don't mistreat people, but I'm not perfect. Sometimes I talk too much. Sometimes, um, you know, I don't know, but when people are able to kind of deal with you and work with you with stuff and tolerate some things from you, as long as they're not abuse, I always say that you should never tolerate abuse, then it shows that they genuinely care about you as a person. And so to bring that full circle back to my original point, is that when we take the time to actually get to know God for who He is, instead of just going by what we think or what people say and stuff like that, it means a lot to God too. So He wants us to get to know Him for who He is. He wants to be known. He wants to be seen. He wants to be understood just like we do, on a different level, mind you. He's not petty like we are, but it means a lot to him. And so a lot of times people don't take the time to actually get to know God for themselves. They just make up stuff, you know. They make up what they think that they God would be like. And usually it just has to do with them. It has nothing to do with God whatsoever. It's about what they want, what they like, and then they bring God into that and make him give the stamp of approval for that stuff. And that's not a relationship with God. Like that's not a relationship with anybody but yourself, actually. So so I talked about, you know, getting to know God for yourself, and then how can you do that? And you know, sometimes people, and it's true that you can do it through Christianity. I'm a Christian, so I'm going to advocate for Christianity, and I don't necessarily say that to like put down other people's religions, because I do know that as human beings we need some type of belief beyond ourselves, and that's why so many people, even people who where Christianity has never been, even in the past, is just human nature. Not everybody, but the majority of human nature seeks for a bigger being than ourselves, because it just it's our nature. It helps us. It grounds us. It directs us. Like we need that. So I do understand that even though people may not have been exposed to Christianity, or maybe for some reason they don't like Christianity, they will typically gravitate towards something because that's what we're wired to do. And so I don't downplay anybody's need to do that. But what I do say is that you have to seek the truth for yourself. And so if somebody spoon feeds you a religion and you just go with that, the question is, did you seek the truth for yourself? In my personal opinion, and I talked about this last week, I say put our religion aside. Like to me, religion is a distraction from the truth. And so you have to put sometimes the Bible aside. You have to put, you know, other different religions. You know, I'm not going to start naming different names of religions, but you have to put that stuff to the side and really have a heart-to-heart conversation with whatever being it was or it is that created you. And so that's what I did. And I gave my testimony a little bit last week about how I was a confused kid, and I just really kind of was asking questions and I couldn't find the answers. And so I started talking to the person in the sky, like, hey, if nobody has answers, if you're real, I'm sure you have them. And so I just started asking questions to the being in the sky. And I specifically remember saying that if you tell me the truth, I'll accept it, because I know there's nothing else and I wanted to know the truth. And so God started to gradually reveal himself to me over time. I had never read a Bible at that time. I didn't know what was in the Bible. I had never touched the Bible. And so me having conversations with that being that I was just talking to led me to Christianity. And since I've been a Christian, so many miraculous things have happened to me in my life that I am absolutely certain not only that there is a God, but that Christianity is the right religion. I hate to say religion because I really don't believe in religion, but Christianity is serving the correct God because of all the changes that I've seen happen in my life because of it. I'm talking about miraculous stuff, healing stuff. Like at some point I was really broken. I suffered with depression. I had all sorts of issues. But I noticed over the years, though I'm praying and I'm learning and I'm reading, and I had a friend who was an atheist, and I told him like something is helping me, and it's not myself. Like some people will be like, well, that's you. That's just a manifestation of you and what you want, blah, blah, blah. No, no. If I'm depressed and I'm thinking that life is not worth it and I want to die, because I was really depressed at one point, and something comes and gives me the motivation and inspiration to live, that's not me. Like, seriously, that's nowhere was in the realm of my thinking. And anybody who has ever been depressed can understand what I'm saying. So I know something has been helping me, and something has been helping me specifically to become a better person. I know I would not be the person I am today if it was not for that. So with that said, we need to get to know God for ourselves and not just necessarily go off what we think, and actually seek the truth above all else. I mean, it's the most important thing. And so the Bible says that if you seek me with all your heart, you'll find me. The problem is that people are not seeking God. They're seeking self. They're seeking status. They're seeking validation. They're seeking power. They're seeking influence. They're seeking all these other things. And then they just attach Christianity to it. But really in their hearts, they're not seeking God, which is why they don't find him. So if you are sincerely seeking God with your heart, the Bible said if you seek him with all your heart, you will find him. And that is absolutely positively true. You have to set aside all the nonsense, all your desires, all your deceptions, everything, and say, okay, you the being that created me. I want to know you. Please help me understand. He will do it. You just have to be really genuine when you say that, knowing that you're ready to sacrifice anything for that truth. So anyway, so that's my little spiel about that. So in to kind of connect with what I was talking last week about us having needing to know God for ourselves and the ways that we can do that. I kind of want to go in today talking about how to live for God, because again, people have a lot of kind of weird ideas when it comes to living for God. And again, even Christians, like, they really don't understand what that means. And I see a lot of people justify doing stuff they should not be doing and then acting like that they're living for God. Okay, that does not work. Okay, so I wanted to go into that a little bit. So one thing that I want to go into before I start talking about what it means to live for God is um, lately I've been reading a lot of books about philosophy. I love philosophy. I like just the documentation of the evolution of ideas. I really like it. And so recently I was reading a book by Sigmund Freud. Um, I can't think of the name, Discontentment or something in Society or something like that. I'm almost finished with it. But what I noticed in the books that I've been reading about philosophy is that one of the main things that they tackle is what is what is our purpose, like what is our purpose and what is the correct way to live life. That is basically the basis of all these arguments that they come up with, is that they're trying to resolve what is the correct way to live, what is our purpose, and then what is our purpose kind of segues a lot of the time into if there is or is not a God. And so this is the main thing that all of society is based on, because if you say what's the correct way to live, then you get into government, you get into culture, you get into family, because all of those things are included in what is the best way to live. And so a lot of it boils down to, so of all the philosophers that I've read, a lot of it boils down to, I have not read any philosopher that has said that happiness is not important, that our purpose in life is not to be happy, is to work, or is to do this, or is to create, or something like that. Almost all of them, when it boils down to it, they emphasize that human happiness is um, the main goal, I would say. I'm not sure if that's the right word. So human happiness. And so that is our aim even now. Everybody wants to be happy. And when you're not happy, it causes a lot of problems. It causes mental issues, it causes murder. I mean, it causes a lot of stuff when we're not happy. So to me, this says that we were created to be happy. And so a lot of the times, that's why we desire happiness so much, because we were created to be happy. And so a lot of the times we live based on that. And we live based on what makes us happy, what makes us not happy. And we just kind of go with that. So if it feels good to us, it's good. If it's not, stuff like that. And so that is our primary aim outside of God, is to just find ways to be happy. And hopefully they're not destroying somebody else's happiness. Some people think that it's their right to be happy, even if it includes robbing somebody else of their happiness. But we have to, but outside of that, generally people just want to be happy. They try to pursue that without breaking the law, without hurting other people, stuff like that. And so that's great. And society and culture is leaning more towards making this happiness a priority over everything, especially with like people paying more attention to mental health issues, stuff like that. We're putting that more in the forefront of our culture, because I would say like 30, 40, 50, hundreds of years ago, with the philosophers that I read, happiness was not even a primary factor of culture. Like, people worked all the time. They had to do a lot of hard things that we have it much easier now because of technology, especially depending on where you live. But basically, when it boils down to it, happiness is one of the main things that we seek and strive for in life. It's what we kill for, it's what we lie for, it's what we steal for. It is what we are programmed to do. So a lot of people make that their goal, and they have these parameters as far as what they can do and not do to make themselves happy. But living for God is different. And that is one of the reasons why kind of Jesus came and kind of blew the lid off the whole thing, because he let us know that our normal way of seeing things is wrong when it comes to the creator. So you may feel like, okay, I just want to be happy, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be happy, and God created you to be happy. But outside of God, a lot of the times we pursue that happiness in the wrong ways. And so God is trying to redirect us to say, I want you to be happy as well. I created you to be happy, but the direction that I'm taking you in is where not only is the correct way to be happy, but it's going to maximize your happiness. This is the maximum happiness that you can find is in me. And so, but a lot of people just want to chase their own thing and be happy in their own way. And so that's what it means to live for God. It means finding your happiness the way that he says that you should find it, and not the way that you want to find it, because we have a limited perception of life. We have a limited perception of, our experiences, things like that. God is standing back and he's looking at the whole entire picture, and actually he's not just looking at your happiness, he's looking at the happiness of people connected to you, and he's saying, here is the best way to go about it, because I know what I created you for. And what I created you for, actually, what we're all chasing is what God created us for. So God created us to be happy, and we're trying to be happy on our own, but we're created to be happy. So we're all chasing the very thing that God created us to have. But most of the time, we're doing it and we're pushing God to the side. We're like, okay, we want happiness, but we don't really want to be concerned with this being that's trying to give us parameters and directions and all this stuff on our happiness. Because on the surface, all the things that he asks, it looks like is denying you of happiness. Because of course you can look at sex as a primary example. Of course, sex and Sigmund Freud really liked to talk about sex. I used to think maybe he was kind of like a pervert or something, but since I started reading his stuff, I see that he probably wasn't. I wasn't in his personal life, so I don't know. But it doesn't seem to me that he was a pervert in the way that I was thinking, but that he was really just sitting back and examining human behavior and culture and trying to sum up these ideas. And he basically came up with the idea that sex is one of the most maximized experiences of pleasure and happiness that we can have in this life, and that's why people go after sex. I mean, it's really kind of cut and dry. So anyway, so he talked about, I was talking about how sex is something that makes a lot of people happy. God created that too. So but when you look at the Bible and the Bible starts giving you parameters on where you can experience sex, then people look at it like, okay, this is blocking my avenue to sex, and actually it's not. So the Bible says we shouldn't have sex outside of marriage, that we should not cheat on our spouses when we're married, that we should stay with one person until we die, stuff like that. People start looking at stuff like that and they're like, that's not happiness for me. But God is saying that if you do things my way, you will see that this is going to maximize is going to bring you to the height of happiness that you can have, especially on this earth. I'm pretty sure it's exponentially greater in the afterlife when we get to be with him, but that's what he's saying. And so people don't want to follow that. They just kind of want to follow what's going to make them happy in the moment, instead of what the long-term happiness that God is looking at, which is what it means to maximize your happiness. He's just not looking at today. He's not looking at tomorrow. He's not looking next week. He's looking at your entire future. He's looking at your family. He's looking at the other people connected to you. And he's saying this is the best way to go about it to ensure the maximum experience of happiness for you and those around you. And a lot of times we don't want to make those sacrifices because they do require initial sacrifices on the front end. And people don't want to do that. And so when it all boils down to it, which I just use kind of sex as an example, living for God means sacrificing what you want for what God wants, and trusting that when you do that, you're going to still reach that end goal of happiness that you wanted from the beginning. Yeah. It's not that easy though, because sometimes God asks you to do very, very hard things that really look like, and sometimes is taking you away from the happiness that you want. But God knows that that happiness that you want is temporary, it's not going to last, and sometimes underneath it is stuff that's going to hurt you much worse than what you realize. And so he's trying to kind of warn us and bring us to the side. Hey, that's not the right way. Come over here. And so, but that's what basically what living for God is sacrificing your happiness, your idea, your understanding of happiness and what you want for his, and trusting that he knows what he's talking about. He's gonna get you to the happiness that you're seeking, and that yeah. So basically that's it. So yeah, so a lot of people don't do that. Even Christians, they get so caught up in having that more immediate um um happiness or gratification that they don't want to take the time to wait for God to make those sacrifices and stuff like that. And it is very difficult. I'm not even going to lie on the front end, because you wanting that more immediate happiness is not about the depth and meaning that God is trying to give you with his happiness. And so a lot of people just like, hey, I know a lot of Christians that drink, and I'm not saying, I know drinking to some extent is not bad. You're not supposed to be getting drunk though, especially regularly. The Bible clearly says that. And so you shouldn't be getting drunk. You shouldn't be smoking. You're destroying your body. You know what I'm saying? So like, if smoking cigarettes makes you happy, but it's ruining your lungs, and eventually God sees down the line you're going to die of cancer, and he's saying, hey, don't smoke those cigarettes. You kind of have to trust and make that sacrifice. You might go through that withdrawal period because you're used to smoking cigarettes, but you know the ultimate aim is to not only make it where you don't suffer in the future because you're sick, to save your lungs and your body, um, but for you to just be healthier overall. So yeah, so God is like, he's much more into our happiness than we are. Like, we're just grabbing the quick stuff, and he's saying, no, that's not going to work for you. Trust me and follow me, and you'll get there. But a lot of the times he does require sacrifices to get to his level of happiness, because he's testing us to see, are you just coming for me because you just want to be happy, or do you actually want a relationship with me? Do you actually want to know me? Do you actually want us to talk and converse and have a relationship with each other? Or are you just chasing me because you want something? Again, it's no different than how we would feel if it was us. Like, if you have $1 million and all of a sudden all these people cramming around you, you're going to come up with ways to try to distinguish who is coming because they just want this money, and who is coming because they actually care about me as a person. And so he is the same way. He wants to know if you're coming because you really love him. And that's a lot of the time where we get the test from, where he takes those things from us, where he will make us wait for those things. And it's, oh my goodness, it can be very, 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 very hard, because we were not designed for that. We were not designed for all this suffering and waiting. We're supposed to be in paradise from the beginning. And so we have to go through all this stuff. It's really, really difficult. And we just like, come on, hurry up. Just give me what it is that I'm supposed to have. You feel incomplete somehow without it. You are, in a way. And so you just want it. And he's saying, no, wait, 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 wait. He knows we can wait. He knows we can be patient. He knows we can make a decision to trust him and wait on him even when it's difficult. And he requires that of us, to make sure not only when he blesses us, that we appreciate the blessing, and we know where it came from, but also that we're not just chasing him just to get something and then we're done. So it's a test. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were saying, well, they don't like the idea that God tests us. It doesn't matter if you don't like the idea, he does. So like, he does. And when you think about it, I think it's legitimate. Like, if you have people around you, again, I go with $1 million, and you want to know if they're really genuine, the best way to, because you can't just go by their word, you can't go by their intention, because sometimes people think that they're really sincere. I know it's times that I feel like, oh, I would just go through the fire for God, and then the fire came, and I was kind of like, okay, I don't want to go through that fire. I want to go around the fire, you know. And so the best way to know if somebody is 100% genuine is to test them, period. And God's tests are just humongous because he's God. But he knows we're up for the challenge and we can handle it. We might feel like we can't. I know I do sometimes. But he knows that we can, especially if our ultimate motivation is to be with him and to hold on to him. And, you know, that's what I want to do. God has done a lot for me in my life. And I don't want to take that for granted. I don't want to devalue what he has done, because he's done things for me that I know no human being would ever do for me in a million years. Like, you know, like I said, sometimes I talk too much. Sometimes I'm a pain in the butt. And I know, and I said this before in other interviews and stuff, that If God has nerves, I'm sure I got on them because I was just always coming to him, always coming, cry, cry. And I know if he was a human, he would have been like, you know what? I can't deal with this anymore. You know what I'm saying? But he did it. He's still there. He still talks to me. He still comforts me. He still guides me. He absolutely has never given up on me. And it amazes me. It amazes me all the time because it's priceless. Like, oh my goodness. So can I make some sacrifices for you? Absolutely. Can I suffer a little bit for you? Absolutely. You know, and you just trust that it's all going to pay off for you in the end and that you're not going away from happiness, but you're actually not only coming closer to it, but you're coming to a more um, prolonged state of it, if I want to say. It's not a temporary thing, it's lasting. And so yeah, so I see a lot of people who make up these ideas about how to live for God. They think it's okay to smoke and drink and have sex and lie and steal. And I remember years ago, there was this guy that I was friends with, and he was going to go buy drugs. Well, I wasn't really friends with him. He was friends with my other friend. I didn't really know him that well actually. But we were all together in the same space. And he was going to go buy drugs from somewhere. I did grow up in the hood, just so you know. And he was praying that God protect him when he go buy his drugs. I was not even a Christian then, and I said, I'm certain you cannot do that. Like that doesn't even make any sense. We just feel like God is for us and for our happiness and for our benefit all the time. Us, me. That we don't take the time to think about God, and He does have standards for the relationships that He's in. And so I think it's very stupid, bogus, naive to think that God, this creator of the universe and everything, is so into you that he's gonna pour all this stuff out for you and protect you and guide you and teach you and all that type of stuff, and you don't have to live up to any expectation that he has. Like that's a definition of dysfunctional relationship. And I don't think the creator of the universe will be in a dysfunctional relationship. So people just have this very one-sided view that God is this and God is that. But when it comes to you actually sacrificing, when you actually put some skin in the game to show your commitment, people back off from that. And then sometimes they create this mold of what they think God is. Well, God is okay with me doing this and this and this and this and this and this and this because he's God and he loves me and he wants me to be happy, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, that's not right. You need to get to know God for yourself. Stop creating ideas of who you think God is or who you want him to be instead of knowing who he is. Because number one, I can tell you he's not a genie. He's not a genie. He's not something you just go to and you pray and God give me this 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 and God give me that. And that's it. You have to do some stuff too. And that's with any relationship. It's 50-50. You bring in, I bring in. And God is not even asking for 50-50 because he knows we can't give him anything. All he's saying is that I want to know you're in it for me. And once you're in it for me and you make those sacrifices, I'll give you the world. You don't even have to do 50-50. Like, what can we give in comparison to him giving us the world that's equal to 50-50? Nothing. He knows that, but he wants our hearts. He wants our hearts. He wants to know that we're there for him. And I think it's fair. I honestly, I think it's fair. If somebody has the keys to paradise and they're saying you can get in here if you can prove to me that you love me, that's not a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask, but it's not a lot to ask compared to what you're getting in return. So yeah, we just have to stop coming up with these ideas, understanding God has standards. And I tell people all the time, like, God is not a fool. Like, how do you think you can just treat God this kind of way and do what you want to do and have a relationship with him where you get to slide and lie and play these little games and get what you want? God is not a fool. Like, I would be mad if the creator of the universe was a fool subject to our kookiness as human beings. Like, come on. He has to be much, much higher than that. He has to hold everybody accountable. He has to have standards. I want a God like that personally. I don't want no noodle back God where he's like, oh, okay, whatever you want. A lot of women don't even like men like that, honestly. So, but anyway, so yeah, that's what I want to kind of talk about. Just like, what does it mean to live for God? It means sacrificing what you want for God and trusting that he'll give you something better, or he's not taking you away from what it is that you are ultimately trying to get to. So that's it. It's 1 o'clock. That's for my 30 minutes today. Just talking about what does it mean to live for God, and those things that he keep us from, just for clarification purposes, that are wrong, things that he does not want us to do, is actually taking us away from the happiness that he created us to have. It's called sin. So he doesn't want us to live in sin. And one of the reasons he doesn't want us to live in sin is because it hurts us. We think we're getting something out of it in the short run, but in the long run, it just hurts us every single solitary time. And he's saying, hey, don't go that way. That's going to hurt you. Come over here. I'll help you. And I'll help you, but I'm going to test you along the way just to make sure you're here for me and not for that, you know. So yeah. So that's just an overview. Of course, it gets much deeper than that. But I just wanted to kind of touch base a little bit about what it means to live for God. So stop justifying your stuff. Clean yourself up. God is only going to help you to be a better person. He'll help you clean yourself up. That's the thing. Like, he acts a lot, but he helps you do everything he asks. He doesn't leave you by yourself to do it. So yeah, he's awesome, actually. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to my podcast, Outside the Box, where I aim to help people see that God is bigger than the tiny boxes that we usually put him in. Get to know God for yourself. Find out what it means to live for God. And that's it. So you guys be blessed. Tune in next week, Friday at 12:30. I'll try to post my topic at the beginning of the week. Sometimes I get busy and I can't get it done. But just tune in next Friday at 12:30 p.m. for more of Outside the Box. Again, make sure you like, share my page, share my content. And that's it. So thank you so much. Be blessed. Have a good weekend. Bye.